Sports podcast.
Welcome to the All Sports Podcast with me, Matt, and today, Joel. How are you, mate?
Hello, Matt. All good. How are you, mate?
Doing good, thank you. And James, how are you?
Yeah, all good. Ready to get stuck in.
Excellent. Let's start with football and the FA Cup from our local correspondent at Deepdale in the northwest.
Yeah, the magic of the cup alive and well at Deep Dive yesterday.
Can you say the magic of the cup alive and well when a Prem team beats a champion?
We nearly had the perfect draw, though, didn't we? I think everyone was hoping for the Bournemouth City game to end one way. Well, that would have been the perfect weekend if that had gone on.
It's a short but sweet visit to Deepdale, and
I was talking about the magic.
kind of. I mean, yeah, it's weird because with the Bournemouth, we will go back to Deepdale, Joel, but with the Bournemouth and Man City, obviously, they're top four rivals at the minute in the Prem.
Well, I think Bournemouth are having a big old wobble now, aren't they? I think that can be confirmed after yesterday's not capitulation, but they struggled to get going again after City went ahead.
Yeah, I think they've got the right game in the Premier League to get the wobble back. They're home against Ipswich this week, so I think they're going. Yeah, and a nice recovery fixture for them this week. But yeah, so how was it? How was it at the home of football?
It was good. We had a very nice day. Sun was shining and Villa played pretty well. The first half was a bit of a non-event. I think Preston were very committed to stopping Villa from playing. Obviously, no problem with that at all. That's probably their best way to get something out of the game. But they really struggled to get forward. Too many bodies behind the ball. They played 5 at the back, and that just meant that they didn't have enough bodies in attacking areas when they did win it back. They had a really good chance in the first half. Still don't really know how they missed it, but a header from 3 or 4 yards out with Martinez scrambling went wide. So they did end up with the most clear-cut chance in the first half. Second half, they kind of Preston started quite well. I feel like the crowd started to get involved a little bit, but then Villa scored at the perfect time, kind of managed to engineer an attack down the left and get Luca Dean into space, and he found Rashford for a really simple finish. And then, yeah, Villa were well on top from that point on. They could have scored again quite quickly. Rodgers had one cleared off the line, and then that almost led directly to the penalty. And then Ramsey wrapped it up not long after that. Watkins could have scored twice. So, yeah, Villa were well on top afterwards.
You said Rashford with a simple finish. You've got to be there to put it in.
Yeah, exactly. And to get his first goal in, I think they've been saying it since early December when he scored twice against Everton. So yeah, huge moment for him to get on the score sheet. He probably would have started playing on his mind if that carried on for too much longer. So yeah, good opportunity for him to get some goals to his name. Interesting. I thought that he played through the middle. Wasn't really expecting that. So it'd be
If there's ever a time to try it, though, right?
Yeah, I guess so. And I think Emery really likes Jacob Ramsey as well, and he's fit he's fitter than he's been all season now. He kind of looks sharp and looks like he's over his injury troubles. So they've moved Rodgers over to the right to incorporate Ramsey into the side. And yeah, Watkins was the one to sit out yesterday. But I think what yesterday kind of showed and what is looking squad, and they've only got one injury at the moment, that's Ross Barkley. So I think they would say that they probably got the squad where they want it to be going into the last 10 or 15 games of the season, however many games they've got to play. And they've got options. I think there'll be a couple that'll start every game, but then there's maybe 6 or 7 that they can chop and change depending on the situation.
Yeah, especially
How long term is Rashford going to be?
What, in terms of?
Are they going to give him a deal?
Oh, well,
I mean, he looks like he can't not, right?
Well, it all depends on which European competition they're in next season, I think.
Right.
I think if they're in the Champions League, then they'll pull the trigger on the £40 million agreement that they have with United and figure the wages out. If they're not, I don't think they'll sign him.
Yeah, what I would say about the Villa squad is I think what Emery likes is a lot of the players can play in a few different positions, which means you can keep players getting minutes while not always in that fixed role. Especially Rashford up front, I definitely thought it was a chance for him to get a lot more minutes. Where if he was competing for Ramsey, he was only going to get these bit part positions, and you've got Asensio, you've got Rodgers, who are banging form. It just seemed like the right sort of move for him. So yeah, I'm interested to see how many minutes he gets in the Premier League in that role, because obviously Watkins is his man usually, but you've got the Champions League, you've got Premier League, and now you've got a semi-final of an FA Cup. There's going to be lots of games to rotate for.
Yeah, I think Watkins was coming back from a slight knock, but had been training all week. So yeah, I just thought he'd play, to be honest. But it'll be interesting to see what they do in midweek.
Yeah, I think the real interesting lineup when you're going to see your team, your best 11 will be in games like PSG. Like, how do you set up against that sort of team? These guys are like probably the biggest informed team in Europe at the moment. It's like a really, really stern test. But you've got a proper tinker of a manager, so there's every chance you come up with something innovative.
Shout out for Preston's left back, who looked pretty good. He's a young lad on loan from Brentford. I think his name's Magoma. But yeah, he was really, really fast. And yeah, looked pretty good for the whole game, really.
Yeah, listed in the left mid. Magoma listed in the left mid.
He was playing like left wing back, yeah.
Yeah, he was number 3, so yeah, definitely would be a wing back.
But yeah, he was pretty good. Other than that, they struggled, but...
Where's he on loan from?
Brentford.
Brentford, okay.
It looks from the goals that they were trying to play deep, but the golfing quality, better teams just pick apart these systems. Like, they find so much space where a normal Championship team would never find. Usually Preston are quite a difficult team to break down, like historically. So yeah, that golfing quality definitely showed, I think.
Interestingly, I'm not sure how frequent it's been done, but all quarterfinals were won by the away side. It's quite a nice quirk.
Yeah, I actually forgot to keep track of that. After Saturday, you're always looking for like every omen that might relate to your team. And every Saturday, from after the Saturday results, I was saying all the away sides have gone through. And then, yeah, after Villa went through, I completely forgot to think about that again. But yeah, all the away sides went through, which was pretty interesting, I think.
Would you say the 4 favourites went through? Palace are in such a good nick of form. Obviously, you had the minnow of Preston, City are the giant in the team. And who's the last one left?
Brighton Forest.
Yeah, obviously Forest are banging form, but Brighton's a difficult place to go. So you'd say those 4 teams are unexpected, but it makes for some great semi-finals.
It does. So in the semi-finals, we've got Man City, Palace, or Forest?
City Forest, yeah.
City Forest, okay. Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah, Forest were... I watched the Forest-Brighton game and I thought they both looked quite nervous. Didn't want to lose it. It got a bit harum-scarum in extra time, but yeah, before that it was pretty cagey. But Forest obviously went through on pens, and then the other, Palace kind of blew Fulham away, didn't they?
They did. And
yeah, 3-0.
About Palace, that if the season started, I think it's mid-December, they'd be like 4th. Like, their form since December has been really strong. So yeah, I'm not really surprised to see it. Like, Eze seems to be firing again, and they started really poorly. I think they missed Elise, but they've got a great coach and they've got some really strong players. So I think you're starting to see the best of that Palace team. Just on the Forest City matchup, obviously only a few weeks ago they played each other in the Prem, and Forest did have City's number, not so much in the City home game, but it's one that City aren't just going to roll them over at Wembley. It should be quite a good contest.
Yeah, I think Forest can go into it believing that they can get like no problem. So I thought City looked a bit strange again yesterday. Like, I thought obviously that first 20 minutes Haaland could have scored 3 times, missing that penalty. He struck that penalty so badly, just properly scuffed it. And
a little bit.
The right hand side of their defence, that's just all wrong, isn't it? Why are they doing that?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it all looks a little bit disjointed. Everything that they're doing defensively, it's like Haaland it's almost like he's second guessing some of the things he's doing. Whereas before, when he's in form, it's just like natural for him. The finishing, he's not even looking at the net. But yeah, you say that, but again, he scores. So it's just, Although he did go off injured, didn't he? So it depends.
Yeah, he went away from the ground in a boost as well, so I don't know how serious that is. But
How serious that is.
Mm.
But yeah, it is a really good. I think City are, if they don't overthink it, you'd expect them to go through. But if you're playing Matthias Nunes at fullback and your 18-year-old centre half, like it's could be a bit ropey for them. But yeah, we'll see.
I've got a bit of a feeling that they're just going to win it, City. Like there's been all this chat about like, oh, it's an interesting draw. There's some teams in there who haven't really won things for a long time, and then it would just be typical for them to just win it and it to be perfectly normal.
Yeah,
It would be, however, with Villa and Forest and not writing off Palace, who are remaining, to have 4 Prem sides that they're in the mix in the Prem. They're not going to have it all their own way. Some of the things that I really like about the FA Cup, you get to this point and you look at the top scorers for the Prem, and it's still McGuinness from Exeter City, which is quite cool. 6 goals, not bad. Goal conversion rate of 46%.
Yes, they play first round, second round, third round, and they're not usually. Yeah, they're sometimes playing National League teams at that level. Get 4 in a game, you could finish top scorer.
Yeah, not bad. Not bad claim to
You
fame.
could see someone who's like a top scorer from like a pub team because he's played about 8 qualifying rounds to get to the first round proper.
I don't like to do this, but we segue to Harry Kane, speaking of top scorers. He's now scored against every Bundesliga side, which is incredible.
Has he?
There 2 years.
Just halfway through, 3/4 of the way through his second season.
It's just,
Yeah, I mean, it's been a huge success there. I think no question about that for me.
there's been a few murmurs of him coming back, hasn't there?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he was ever going
Some
to be
rumbles.
for ages. Second season now. Maybe they'll do one more season there and then come back. He's going to want that Prem record.
He is, but if he comes back next year, another year older, would he be 33 then? Do you think he's in shape to go for another 2 or 3 seasons in the Prem, which he might need to get
Is that how much he needs?
I think he's like, I can't remember the actual number he is behind.
I think he's only about 30 off.
Yeah, but he's not going to come back and bag, 20 goals a season at 34, is he?
This is Harry Kane we're talking about.
I know, but it's...
So he is on all-time goals. He's on 213, Shearer's on 260, so he needs 47.
Oh, yeah, it's quite a lot.
I think that's why he'll come back this year. But it's he won't go back to Spurs. I could genuinely see him going to Liverpool and it fitting their system. But it's if they don't get Isaac, are they going to go and spend that money on Harry Kane's wages? Because it's going to be a lot. It's not exactly progressive either, is it? You're buying someone you know you're going to get no money back for.
It's not, but they could get a Prem.
Oh, another one.
It depends who leaves Liverpool this season. We're flopping around a little bit, but we'll go on to Trent. We'll go on to Trent, I guess, but without Femi to give us our usual rigor and structure, we're all at sea. So it depends. It depends what happens with Liverpool. They've got their 3 main players are kind of up for grabs to leave this season. Salah and Van Dijk and also
Trent.
And it looks like Trent's done.
Yeah, I think the Trent.
There's a bit too much smoke, isn't there?
Yeah.
There is. I think I've got sort of 2 hats on. I think that if you were to see Trent leave, you would probably see Salah and Van Dijk sign new deals because the money will be there. The wage structure will be a bit more protected. But I do think...
Do you think that's the restriction at the minute?
I think Liverpool have a pretty rigorous wage structure, and to give one of them money, you're going to have to give it to all of them. And I would say Trent's the one you want to give it to on the basis that he's got a resale value. But also, you want to keep Salah and Van Dijk for at least another year because they seem still at the peak of their powers. So they're in this sort of game of chess where all 3 of them know what the number is and they'll all want the same number. So I think if Trent was to leave, you can lock down Salah and Van Dijk pretty comfortably. I also think the way that Trent has handled it has been extremely poor. I think if he was intending on running down his contract and meaning his boyhood club got no money on purpose, he'll get treated the same way that Owen has, for the last 10 years. Like, he will not be remembered in the way he should be as a fullback who changed the position, won a Premier League, won a Champions League, straight out of the academy. Like, he should be legend status, but he will blow it if he leaves. I think it'll be so difficult to come back from.
They won the FA Cup as well, right?
Won
everything.
FA Cup. Yeah, they've won a lot. So I understand the reason for leaving, but he should have signed a new deal and got a transfer fee. But he's just going to get a huge signing on bonus instead.
Yeah, that leaves it would leave a bit of a sour taste.
Imagine
feel
Saka
like
doing that.
I mean, Arsenal's top player left every year from the year 2002 onwards.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm well versed in it.
It's
And
more like
it
boyhood.
hurt every time, but you understood every time that we weren't in contention at that time. But they are. That's the thing. They're in contention for Champions League and they're in contention for the Premier League for the next couple of years at least.
I don't think it's the leaving part. I think leaving is understandable. He's won everything. I think it's the leaving on a free transfer, which will hurt a lot of Liverpool fans.
It's hard. I think it's difficult to say that's all on him. You know, he's got to be. The club's been a bit strange behind the scenes the last couple of years, hasn't it?
Yeah, I think that transition of sporting directors, managers, that hasn't helped. I think if it was consistent, they would have tried to get this done a lot earlier and realised his intention wasn't to sign. But you don't know what they've Trent might have told the club, yeah, I'm going to sign, like I want this, if you give me this, I'll sign. And then turn around and gone, no, actually, I'm going to go to Real Madrid. Like, it could have worked both ways.
Yeah. I think that's it's the way that football's gone as well, though, in that these big players run their contracts down in order to get their big moves. There's not many of the big players who go for money now, but largely because some of them are kind of priceless as well. Like, you can't really put a price on them, and it's silly to try and do so. And I think Trent falls into that category. If he's got 4 or 5 years left on a deal, how does somebody realistically negotiate a price with Liverpool? It's really hard.
Yeah, there's only so many players that you could only do that for 1 or 2 players at a time. Like Real Madrid bashed it for Bellingham, didn't they? So they probably can't do it again for a while. It is very much the Real Madrid way. Like, you think of some of the big signings they've made in the past. Usually it's free transfer involved because they have that pull of, well, when you're done, we can come here. We'll give you a £20 million signing on fee instead of giving it to your club, and that does it for a lot of players. Like this. These are guys that have grown up with the Galactico heroes when they were kids. So it's that the allure of playing for Real Madrid is huge.
And playing abroad as well. We always talk about what a short career it is. He's probably got 10 years left, max. He wants to go and chance his arm in a new environment, like I say, playing for Real Madrid and all that comes with it. But at the same time, I absolutely understand how Liverpool fans feel about it. And I don't think you can ever really rationalise it for fans. It's basically impossible.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because it's an emotional decision for them.
Yeah.
There's a lot more in it for him. Emotions there too, sure. Interestingly, though, like with Van Dijk, who's 33 and his contract's up this summer, they're only giving him a year, aren't they?
Could be 2.
Could be 2 in Saudi for big money.
I think he'd probably sign a 2-year deal on the basis he would leave after a year if he wanted to. Like the Saudi guy, they'd just cancel it, wouldn't they? It'd just be a wage thing. But I think Van Dijk might want 2 years, same as Salah. Like, they don't seem to be showing any signs of decline.
No, Salah's at his peak.
Yeah, I mean, the last 6 weeks, a little bit of a drop-off, but I wouldn't say. I'd say they're both pretty good.
I don't think either of them would sign 1-year deals.
No, there'd be no need to. Because if they don't sign a 1-year deal at Liverpool, they could go sign a 2-3-year deal at pretty much any other club in the world. So yeah, I see them 2 years, maybe 2 plus 1, an extension if they hit a certain amount of appearances like they do these days. But yeah, I could see them both staying comfortably and then going off to Saudi when they're finished. When they're 35, they can still probably get a year or 2 out of Saudi and get that that last payday for themselves.
From a continuity perspective as well, I don't even think you can lose 2 out of the 3. To be honest, I think you've got to keep 2 of the 3. So if Trent's the one to go, I think they'll throw everything at Salah and Van Dijk then.
Yeah, can't lose your captain.
If Trent goes, Curtis Jones just permanently plays in the position and they shore up their defence, right?
Connor Bradley. Yeah, no, I think
Connor Bradley, sorry, not Curtis Jones, yeah.
I think looking at the market and from what I've read, there isn't an abundance of right backs available. Like Jeremy Frimpong from Leipzig from Leverkusen is the one that's been talked about a lot. But the system works in both ways. You can just sort of revert it and go down the left side. Like Liverpool are looking at Kirkesh from Bournemouth, who is very much an attacking fullback, and then you go and invest in a right-footed centre half who can play right back, and you sort of strengthen up your defence on that side. So I don't think they'll be looking for a like replacement because it doesn't really exist. No other player plays the way that Trent does.
Well, we've got a nice Anfield derby midweek. Wednesday night we've got Liverpool Everton. I don't think we're going to see the fireworks that we saw in the last derby at Goodison. I think Liverpool cruise this one.
Yeah, I thought the first derby a few weeks ago was very wrapped up in the emotion of it all. I think obviously being the last derby at Goodison, it was Moyes' return. There was a lot of emotion behind the game, and Everton have been that thorn in the side of Liverpool when they've been trying to close out titles before. So they'll want to be that again. But yeah, I would say at Anfield, they have a strong chance of just sort of finishing it off, and you want to get it done as early as possible because if there's any slip ups over the next couple of weeks, it will be a very squeaky bum finish for them.
Yeah, and one of the areas you would say would be Liverpool. One of the areas you would say would be the derby, but not at this point. Interesting week for Notts Forest. They're home to Man United, and then they have got Villa at the weekend.
If you call them Notts Forest, you'll annoy a whole load of people. Notts County, Nottingham Forest.
I'm good. I'm good with it. I'm good with it. It'll be maybe potentially a precursor to the final of the FA Cup this weekend. Then, Joel.
I mean, potentially, yeah, I'd take that as the final. Big game for Villa more than Forest, I would think, and a big opportunity for Villa, like I say, to close the gap on those above them. Villa have got a funny run in the sense that it's a big opportunity because they play a lot of teams in the top half, but equally they play a lot of teams in the top half. So European qualification for the league is looking difficult, I would say. I think Forest, with those two results before the international break, I think they beat City and then they went away and beat Ipswich really handily. I think those two results kind of solidify them in the top four.
Yeah. Shored them up, didn't it?
Yeah, I think they'll be feeling really confident. They've got a 7-point cushion back to Newcastle. I am really intrigued to how Newcastle respond to post-parade because that can have a funny effect.
Yeah.
Players' mentality.
I think
season ending.
They've got a game in hand on the rest of that area as well. So they're 28 and they're 2 points outside the Champions League. So win their game in hand and they can really take that fourth spot. And they know they need to. Well, to be fair, it's fifth, isn't it? But they know they need Champions League football because a lot of people are looking at their prized assets and they will leave if they don't get the level of competition they're after. So incentive.
I would say, obviously, you look at it and it's like, it's really tight. Anyone from Bournemouth really is in the picture because they're only 4 points off City. But I would say Bournemouth are probably going the wrong way.
Mm-hmm.
I would say Fulham and Brighton both feel like they're going the wrong way as well.
Mm.
So
I hope so. Arsenal got Fulham, but it's all too little, too late for Arsenal in these fixtures.
Yeah, it's not a lot of riding on it for them, is there?
Yeah, I would say Brighton are the dark horse for me. Like 4 wins and a draw in the last 5 Prem games. I know they've had cup games either side, which has made it a bit spottier. But in the Prem, they've looked back to their best in some of the ways they're playing. So the only problem is they are so open in games that it's just so hard to predict what they'll do.
They are, and they've just played 120 minutes with penalties 2 days earlier.
Why do I think they've started to go the wrong way when their results look decent?
Yeah, they lost in their cup.
Maybe it's a hopeful thing with Villa away to Brighton on Wednesday.
I don't know. Like obviously their results look pretty good, and beating teams around them as well. Beat Bournemouth, beat Fulham.
You might be remembering when Forest stumped them 7-0. That might be in your head of these guys.
Yeah, maybe.
That's fair.
All right. Any other football news then?
There was 7 points outside the playoffs. Game in hand. We're on the charge.
There we go.
There you go.
7 points outside the playoffs. Did you say?
Yeah, we've won 4 out of our last 5 though, with a draw.
Okay, right, yeah. Go on, Chesterfield.
Will Griggs back. He's on fire.
Which is going to be everybody else's next question.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Is he on fire?
He's still on fire. But that's all I've got for League 2.
What's the run-in looking like?
Sheffield have pretty much the entire bottom half to play. But that's no good for us. We can't beat the bottom half. We only beat the teams that are above us.
So far,
yeah, maybe it will change. Playing bottom of the league tomorrow night. These guys have not won a game in a while. I guarantee they beat us.
Who is bottom of League 2?
Carlisle.
Is it Carlisle?
Yeah. Carlisle have got one of the best attendances, best followings, and they are about to be relegated to conference football.
With Mark Hughes at the helm.
Mark Hughes, yeah, I mean, that seems like a bit of a desperate appointment, like one of these guys that used to be a good manager. But yeah, that's your League 2 roundup for this week. We'll come back next week and I'll give you a bit more.
It's funny, isn't it? It's not that long ago that he was a big manager. Do you know what I mean? Like maybe 12 years ago that he was at City. Maybe less than that.
He was the first. Was he the first manager under the new ownership? Was that Mark Hughes?
Yeah, under
2010.
then, didn't they? And then,
He took charge of Man City in 2008.
Yeah,
longer ago than I thought. There you go.
The Robinho age, isn't it? Robinho and Joe up top for Man City when they first got money.
I feel like that was Sven.
Was that Sven? No, it wasn't.
I don't know. All kind of merges into one, doesn't it? But for me, Hughes, I immediately associate with Burnley for some reason. But yeah.
Well, he was. I don't know if there was a crossover there, but he was the Wales manager. Is kind of one of his first appointments was as Wales manager, 99 to 2004.
Well, long time. But
yeah, quite interesting that he was there for a 5-year stint as his first managerial stint,
and then went to Stoke to kind of change their playing style. That was the idea.
I mean, that was 9 years later.
Yeah,
he went to Blackburn, Man City, Fulham, Queen's Park Rangers, and then Stoke.
Between City and Stoke were all those clubs?
In between City and Stoke were Fulham, QPR.
Did he not sign Rio for QPR or something mad as well? He brought in a bunch of old boys.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. But he was
in 2012, so that's about right timeline.
He was manager of Bradford in League 2 recently and didn't do much either. So he's just sort of gone down and down and down. And now he's at Carlisle and he could be a National League manager soon.
Well, he did yet less than a year at Southampton after Stoke. So that was the end of it. And then he had a 4-year window out of management through COVID. 2022 came back, Bradford for a season, and then a year out again. And then 2025... Carlisle, and they're going down. Call it a day.
Yeah, why is it? I think that's the question I'm asking. Like, why has he done this? I don't know why he's put himself in that situation. But I apologise for the Mark Hughes tangent.
Do you think he's as a manager? Obviously, he was a very, very good player, but at that time of the game, does he have enough money to never work again? Would you say?
I don't know. I would have thought so. Managing City at that time for 5 years.
City, yeah, that's a good point.
He played until 2002. So.
That seems mental to me.
He played in the
80s.
He played until he was about 45, though, didn't he?
He did start in 1980. His first 6 years at Man United before going on his big money deal to Barcelona for probably like 10 grand. Then Bayern Munich on loan. Then back to Man United for a 7-year stint before going to Chelsea, Southampton, Everton in 2000, and then also Blackburn 2002.
Hell of a career.
So he didn't quite fall down the leagues in the same way that he did managerially.
Yeah, but there's some of these guys, like you've seen it with Rooney, they just can't get out of the game. They have to stay in the game in some shape or form.
Hold on a second. Notice something there. Managerial career started 9, whilst he was still playing at Southampton, Everton, and Blackburn. So he played his last 3 teams that he played. And bear in mind, he did 50 games playing for Southampton whilst he was manager of Wales. 18 at Everton and 50 games at Blackburn whilst manager of Wales.
Yeah. Busy week, isn't it? Training, got to do your team, head off to Wales on the weekend.
I dare say he was just playing matches for those teams and not training. And he was just managing matches and doing selection for the international team and not a lot in between.
I think he got the key.
2 part-time jobs.
Yeah, part-time Husey. Right, that was a hell of a tangent.
Right, nice tangent there. We've been down some odd ones. What was the old Chesterfield guy that liked to do the skills that was playing for that team that skinned some Premier League team? What was his name again?
Hayden Hollis.
Hayden Hollis, yeah. That was a nice tangent too. I enjoyed that one we did a few months ago.
I've got some Chesterfield insight if anyone cares, but it's a real small group of us. Although it is up massively, so who am I to speak?
All right. let's go to another sport then. I was going to touch on basketball. We'll give it just a nod. I'm just going to give it a nod on basketball, that the season is now heating up as we get to the final 2 weeks of the regular season. People are playing for their lives to make it into the top 10 in each conference. So 70 games later, we've now just got a handful of games that actually make a difference.
Kind of like basketball in a microcosm, isn't it? Like the matches are kind of like that. It's like 3.5 quarters of back and forth, kind of rhythmic play, and then a couple of minutes of frantic.
Yeah, to the point where you get the buzzer beaters.
Yeah.
Which obviously leads us nicely on to Chicago Bulls buzzer beater against the Lakers this week.
Buzzer beater, wasn't it? Lakers thought they'd won it at the last minute, and then they hadn't.
They did. So what happened was Josh Giddey, I think he scored a couple of points, and then Lakers went down the other end with about 6 seconds to go, scored a buzzer beater, but it wasn't a buzzer beater because the buzzer didn't go off within the time. However, Josh Giddey's 2 points previously, it was at the end of the shot clock. So that is a buzzer beater too. But then they went down the other end. Lakers scored their points, and then they're 1 point up. So it's like 100 and I don't know what it was. 100 and, pardon?
119, 118, something like that.
Yeah, it was 116 to 114 or something, and then Josh Giddey picks up the ball, sprints to half court, and chucks it in. And yeah, Josh Giddey, absolutely incredible week that he's had. He's done some other phenomenal plays this week. He's just total highlight reel this week. But it's nice when you see players like this that are little talked about. Teams like this, we even spoke about it earlier, didn't we? No one's spoken about the Chicago Bulls for the last 20 years, so it's nice for them to get a headline.
Must be really weird to be a Chicago Bulls fan who's over the age of like 30 or 40. Like, you used to be the best team ever, and now you're like, oh, like, how do I get interested for these games?
It's probably the thing that you get with the franchises, like cities, being such a big country with such large cities, that you do have your city that you support, I guess similar to football.
Yeah, I would say it's obviously slightly different to American football in the sense that the franchises move around in
They
America.
do a bit.
Yeah, a bit more. But I was thinking about this with my mates the other day. Like, this was sort of why we were thinking college sports are so large in America, because there's more of a "this is my hometown" feel about college sports. Like you imagine these college athletes are, they're not professionals. They're playing in front of 90,000 people at times. It's like, what on earth is going on over there? But it makes a lot of sense when you think about the franchise model in American sport.
So the two teams that are leading the way at the minute are the Cleveland Cavaliers in the East and Oklahoma City Thunder in the West, who have gone now onto a 9-game win streak. All they've done all year is just been on these win streaks. Same with the Cavaliers, but they had a win streak that was just broken a couple of weeks ago. But it's Celtics in the East that at the right time in the season are on a run. They've won 8 on the bounce. Last 10 is 9-1. 55 wins and 19 losses. Just a handful of games to go now. So we will round up basketball in a week's time when we get to the postseason. We've got the play-in tournament first to make it into the playoffs.
How new is this play-in thing? I haven't seen that before.
Yeah, last couple of years it's been the play-in. So the play-in is obviously between like teams ranked 7th to 10th to play for the 7th and 8th seeding spots. So top 8s play in the playoffs, but 7, 8, 9, and 10 play in a play-in tournament to make it into that top 8, which sucks if you're already 7th. But you've had a long enough season to make it count. So
I mean, it's the same as the championship playoffs, isn't it? If you finish third,
you've only got yourselves to blame.
Yeah, exactly. You know what the rules are. You know what you're in for.
Hey, and we spoke about it a few months ago, didn't we? How bad your chances are if you win the playoffs to make it into the next league up. They're all coming down, aren't they? Is that still happening, James?
Yes. Well, every team that got promoted through the playoffs, are they getting relegated? Well, in the Premier League, that's definitely true.
Yeah.
Let's have a look at the others. Actually, it's a good point. League 2, who came up through the playoffs? Who came up with us? Bromley. No, they're promotion chasing. They're okay. They're near us. League 1, who went up? I'm trying to think off the top of my head. Stockport went up. Wrexham went up. and somebody else. Could have been Mansfield. And then there's a playoff winner as well. Mansfield is sort of down there a little bit, but they're not doing too badly. And then Wrexham are second because they spend more money than anybody else in League One history. I don't know if you saw their books from the year before, but they are smashing every single record that's ever been set down here in terms of revenue, advertising, all this stuff.
Well, Wrexham are.
There's just the money that's coming into the club is just
sponsorship deals, like global sponsorship deals, obviously.
Yeah, it's
I thought Birmingham were doing a similar thing. Maybe we won't see that until next year.
The accounts are a year behind, aren't they? So they're going to finalise their 24 books.
Birmingham are basically a done deal to be up now, aren't they? They've basically wrapped up the league.
They're 12 points ahead of third with a game in hand. So yeah, they'll be. I mean, they paid 15 million quid for a striker in League One. Like, I wouldn't even say it's remotely surprising. But you see the teams Wrexham and Stockport are second and fifth. They came up from last year, so they're already super competitive. No, Stockport were there already because they only just missed out on the playoffs last year. Close, I think they came in the semi-finals or something. So yeah, I mean the teams are doing okay. I think from the Premier League, the gap between the Championship and the Prem has never been higher. So yeah, it's those playoffs. If you're getting into the playoffs and you're getting up, that golf to then go again in the next year is really difficult.
And likewise, I don't think would you expect any of these basketball franchises who finish 9th and 10th to go and win the whole thing? Probably not.
Yeah. How low has someone ever won it?
Yeah, definitely not. Yeah. I mean, when you look at the teams and how, because they play against each other awful lot throughout the season, you get a feel for who's going to win a series, like who's winning a one-off game, but who could win a 7-game series.
I think that's the only thing, isn't
a
it?
very different kettle of fish.
Consistently put games together. It's not just a one-off.
Yeah, is that the argument about basketball? There's too many games in a season that these games only feel special towards the end when there's something on the line. And you also have so much data about these teams that you don't get as many upsets.
Yeah, it feels harder for a smaller franchise who don't have the salary cap of a bigger one.
Yeah, you never get the magic of the FA Cup and the NBA.
No, I don't think so.
There's none of that. These teams know each other too well.
Basketball done. In the golf.
How did Rory end up doing?
Pretty well.
To the right, fifth. Interestingly, tied fifth gets you $338,000.
Yeah.
What, in a little
old Houston Open in the PGA, which takes him to $100 million in career earnings in just tournament winnings.
I was slightly concerned after the first couple of rounds. I'd say for the first 28 holes, I thought, oh no, he's going to miss the cut the week before the Masters. This is going to be terrible. And then just sort of switched it on and had a really good Saturday and finished well on Sunday as well. I think he made an eagle on one of the back 6 holes. But I saw a really interesting piece today. Was he did an article afterwards. And he was like saying about how he was having some problems with his elbow, and he was sort of deflecting all the pressure off himself. Like he was like, "Oh, give me some bother. I'm going to have some work done on it before Augusta." And he seems to be doing a lot of the right things. Like he's had 2 wins and a top 5 in a big event. But if he'd have won this week, the pressure on him would have been so much going into the Masters because everyone would be speaking about him. Similarly, Scotty's best performance came this week. Like he was electric for a lot of it. And everyone's like, oh God, here we go. Scotty's back. So for him not to win it was good because it proved that he's beatable, but also his game is trending in the right direction at the right time of the year.
It is, and he is coming back from that hand injury that he had, bad cut on his hand from broken glass.
Guarantee he's got a chef now. His hands are too expensive to be cutting things into his...
Who really knows the true story of what actually happened? But
the win was Min Woo Lee, who I don't know if you've seen. He's sort of probably one of the most closely ingrained golfers to like the influencer world. Like he's big in YouTube. Obviously, there's guys that are doing it with Bryson and Phil, but he is very much of that generation. So it's good to see him get his first win, and he hits the ball so far for somebody that looks like he probably weighs like 100 pounds wet through. So defying of physics going on. But yeah, he's a very likable guy. So good to see him win. I don't know if you saw the clip of him as well. He's getting done for like slow play because he does a lot of this aim point stuff. And his winning putt is like an inch out, and he just takes the piss and stands over it and pretends to read them.
Oh, really?
And then there's a clip of Scotty. He was in the scorer's hut because if Min Woo Lee made bogey, they were going to a playoff, and you could see Scotty looking at the telly like really laughing because of what he's doing. So yeah, a bit of character live in golf is always good.
Yeah, nice that Scotty took it.
Oh, very well. Yeah, I mean, a class act, isn't he?
He is, yeah. He's not been around as long, and obviously he's right there on the money list as well. He's like 75 or 78 million career winnings as well.
Yeah, he's done it all at the time where the money is so much higher, so he's going to get that.
Yeah.
He'll get there probably the quickest that anyone's ever done. But it's only Rory and Tiger that have done it so far, yeah.
Yeah, they're the only two, and then next on the list is Mickelson, who obviously similar era to Tiger. He's done incredibly well considering that he was in Tiger's era to be that high up the money list. But obviously he's been playing for a very long time. But yeah, and then DJ is up there as well, Dustin Johnson, who was the start of like when the money was really big. He was winning the Tour and the Tour Championship, but then went to live, so it's obviously reduced the
Yeah, he must have won a lot in a
Right.
short amount of time.
He did. Yeah, he did.
He did. He dominated, and then he won a Masters, and pretty much called it a day on the tour after that.
He is one of these guys that he was like one of the first really big hitters, and he was never really missing fairways because he had like a one-way miss. He was like the original bomber, but he was so good in that era where he won his Masters. Like Matt said, he did just sort of go, I've got my money, I've won my major, and then sort of faded off to the background. And that move to live was a shock to probably nobody.
Yeah, for like 200 million or something though, he went for, didn't he?
He was one of the bigger ones, yeah. He's made his money. But I don't know if you've seen that Live they've started to dip their toe in like the creator space. They're having one of these creator events, so they're pairing one YouTuber with one pro golfer, and they're doing like a scramble format. And I was just reading before this started, the PGA Tour was starting to get a bit like fitty at some of these creators that have done events with them too. And they're like, if you don't pull out of this, you won't be able to do a PGA Tour event. And they're all like, no, like obviously I'm doing it, and they've had to back down. But those relationships aren't as good as you might think. With Liv and PJ very close to a deal, it's still very ratty.
Yeah, close to a deal, but also at times like this, never seem further away.
Yeah, okay, I agree. I think with the deal's only going to get close if Trump's involved because he's the only one that can bring everyone back to the table. So yeah, at the moment it's a mess.
That's the world we live in. On that bombshell. Bomb probably being the operative word. You can find us on YouTube and Spotify, like and subscribe. You can get in touch at allsportpods@gmail.com, and we will catch you on the next one. Cheers, guys.
Cheers, Matt.
Cheers.